Terrific. All right, our next speaker is Barbara Adams. You can come up here. Her title of her presentation is Moving Along with Time. And she was a student of mine and worked with me last semester. I'm Rebecca Lowe, just for those of you who are new to the room. So thank you and welcome, Barbara. Here you go.
Where do I put this in? I may not use it, but I'll stick it in case I decide to do the slides. Oh, it goes into here. But it goes on the side, yeah. Oh, okay, I could have done that. I didn't realize I thought that was something different. Good afternoon. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my life. I grew up very much witness to a marriage that could be characterized as a companionable marriage, post-World War II. My mother returned to work for a short time so that my father would have the freedom to start and build his own business. Soon my father was on his way financially, and my mother became a full-time homemaker, giving birth to my younger sister. I'm sorry, can you hear me? Or? No, that's good. Oh, I'm sorry. Television gave a youngster a steady diet of Father Knows Best, the Donna Reed Show, the Dick Van Dyke Show, plus several other shows of the same kind of gender. All typical American families with stay-at-home mothers living in the suburbs with houses with white picket fence. My family was not typical American. All through, we were middle class in income, we were Jewish, not fitting into the typical mode. However, we were not at all religious, but we did follow some cultural patterns. I grew up with the idea that marriage should be a two-way sharing project. If I married, it was very important to make a success of it. However, the 60s suddenly were in full swing. There was a book out called Sex and the Single Girl by somebody by the name of Helen Gurley Brown, and a hit show on TV starring Marla Thomas, called That Girl, and she was a young woman on her own. Suddenly, I was part of a movement out of my parents' home to an apartment in Manhattan, and I became a full member of the single scene. Most people were looking for mates. It featured a round of bars, parties, served in meeting places, beach houses in the summer, and ski houses in the winter. For a while, finding an eligible husband seemed very important. However, suddenly I became very career-oriented and began thinking about returning to college, as it looked the best way to advance my career. I had worked my way up to being an executive assistant of a small financial firm, but the position of office manager went to a male instead because he had a college degree, even though I was doing all the work. However, on a sticky summer night, a broken air conditioner, 2 dogs, and a park bench changed my life forever. Less than 10 months later, I was married. I had taken a new job with added responsibilities and a raise in salary. Just about that time, my doctor decided to change the prescription on my birth control pills. 6 days after my first anniversary, we became parents. Our daughter Deborah was born. These events had happened in fast succession, taking me by surprise and altering my plans in existence. In our rather hectic courtship, we never discussed having children and probably thought that if we did, it would be at a much later date when we were both ahead in our established career paths and had time to enjoy each other. However, now we had to plan a new strategy. The first obstacle came when my employer found out that I was pregnant and terminated my employment, stating that he should have hired a man. I applied for unemployment. The unemployment counselor stated I needed a doctor's letter stating that I was ready, willing, and able to work. My doctor complied. However, after a few checks, the unemployment counselor decided that due to my physical appearance, I was ineligible for benefits. I challenged the decision and lost to a board of men. Fortunately, my husband was gainfully employed, but this did alter our budget. Having time on my hands, I contacted my original employer, who suggested that the people in the office missed me. Why don't I come down and visit? Upon arrival, he immediately confirmed to me that he had several assistants and none of them worked out. Would I come in part-time? The arrangement worked as the hours were flexible. My husband helped along with a succession of paid help. The following year, we decided to make a first of several moves and left New York for southern Florida. Marriage is an ongoing project. Our marriage is very different from my parents' marriage. Our marriage is definitely an individualistic marriage. To start with, you have two people who lived on their own, away from their parents, were totally self-sufficient with independent lives and a variety of goals. Our marriage has always been a two-career marriage. One of the most pressing problems in a dual-career marriage is time. To put in better terms, the absence of enough time. There was never enough hours to sandwich everything that had to be done. Another issue is career choices, decisions, and goals. We very often led each party in different directions. As an example, at one point, my husband was spending part of the week in New York, and I was alone in Middletown, Connecticut with my daughter. Sometime later, I was promoted to management and sent to Massachusetts. It took 6 months to find housing before my husband and daughter could join me. My husband had also been recruited by the same firm and had a job waiting for him. Living part-time with one's family puts extreme stress on all members of the family. Gender roles played a very small part in our marriage, if any. With the stress of a dual-career marriage and sometimes work taking us in separate directions, the person who was there had to do what had to be done. This would include carpools, laundry, child sitting, shopping, and whatever else came up. Another mountain that modern marriages has to climb is that you may have two people who at first glance seem to have similar backgrounds. However, when they begin to live together, you note that they are not similar at all. As example, my husband and I both come from what could be classified as middle-class backgrounds, both with father and mother, each being the older sibling in the family, growing up in clean, safe, middle-class neighborhoods. In our case, that was about where it ended. For the first 14 years of my life, I lived in a multi-generation house with my grandmother and grandfather. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away when I was 5. My neighborhood was surrounded by family, plus the fact that my father and grandfather had grown up on the same street and we knew everybody in the neighborhood. In those days, people lived in the same area their whole life. Upward mobility and changing neighborhoods changed this during my teenage years. However, my first 14 years left an indelible impression on me. My husband, on the other hand, grew up in a much closer environment with just his immediate family. Geographic mobility is another mountain that many modern marriages have to deal with. I joined the financial service industry with John Hancock after less than 5 years, I was sent, that led me to management, resulted in our move to Massachusetts. Our parenting style was probably a mixture of what and permissive. By the time we settled in Middletown, our daughter refused to have a babysitter. Most of the families were dual-income families, and the children tended to stay together in one house after school, and the parents would call to check up on them. The years flew by. Our daughter, an only child, the time just never seemed right to increase our family. Another reason for this was lack of available resources such as family leave, decent affordable daycare, and I had lost career footing once. I wasn't going to let it happen again. Since it was impossible while my husband was in school, once he finished, I was on a career path and I wasn't going to stop. We spent 9 years in Massachusetts. Our daughter completed high school and graduated from college during those years. One bright January morning, my husband and I arrived at the agency that we were associated, and we were informed that our agency was a part of a movement to downsize the company. We returned to New York and found suitable employment. After approximately 5 years in New York, we decided to return to Connecticut. My husband was approaching the end of his work years. We had lived in a suburban setting and actually missed our car. We returned to Middletown, and I ended up working for a financial agency with a group of people that I knew from John Hancock. The staff was small, and my position varied from day to day. I also decided at that point that I was going to go back to college. I went back to college and completed my degree. Today, I live with my husband of almost a half a century in a building for people 55 and over. We both enjoy excellent health. We have a large, spacious apartment. which we enjoy. My husband has been with me for every turn. He is my soulmate, and I cannot imagine what life would be like that had my air conditioner not broken on that hot, sticky night. Unfortunately, both my husband and I lost our siblings several years ago due to cancer. Our daughter lives a distance, and we have no family left that we are aware of, as all of our parents were the youngest children in their family. We are both totally pretty dependent on each other. One problem that results from a dual career marriage occurs during retirement. Now that we are both home, my husband feels that I do not let him share equally in the household duties. His usual complaint is, I did that for years. Why can't I do it now? We occupy our time with each other. Both of us paint as an avocation. We both have gym memberships, and my husband writes for intellectual stimulation and enjoys opera and classical music. I take classes to keep my mind occupied. Do I have time? Because I have some slides. I have some slides, but I was waiting to see if I had time to run them. Your device? Okay, how do I open it here? Okay. Kingston. It's not opening.
Why don't I see if we can get the slides open and we can, Barbara, you
Okay,
want to take
fine.
some questions?
Sure,
And I'll
okay.
try to do the technology.
Here, anybody want to ask me anything? I guess not.
I was just wondering how you find the workforce now in comparison to when you started. Do you see a major change in how women?
Oh, I can take my daughter, as a matter of fact. My daughter went to health center. Which, when I came upon an age when women were trying to push forward, but we weren't always very successful. I mean, I don't think now they would have the nerve to fire somebody because they were pregnant. And they were very open about it. I mean, he said I should have fired a man. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Does your daughter have a family of her own
My daughter has 2 children
and a full-time career herself?
and a full-time career. She has available daycare. Well, now they're a little older, but it was expensive. It's still not what it is in the Western world. She was paying at one point several years ago $80 a day for each child. Yeah.
Did you have any, I guess, peers or friends that were also women that would like reflect on your lifestyle, or maybe tell you it was the wrong way to do it, or maybe admired the way that you?
Most of my friends were trying to do this. A lot of my friends were trying to do the same thing. Although I did have several friends. The first time I went to college, when I first started school out of high school, most of my friends, a lot of women went into teaching because it was for women. For some reason, that's probably why I quit school. It just wasn't relevant to me at that time. I wanted to do something in the business world.
That's cool.
But it was, I think, it took a lot of women for women to get to the point that they are today.
Yeah.
I mean, when you went into an office, the first thing they asked you to have a 4-year college degree and a master's. They asked, could you type? Yeah.
Good call. I've got, do you want me to scroll through? Do we have other questions?
It was perfect.
Yeah.
That's a homemaker in the 50s. That was probably my mother. That's the program Father Knows Best with maybe. And that's the Donna Reed show.
Okay. So these were prototypes.
Yeah, they're from the web. That's the Dick Van Dyke show that I took. And that's the book Sex and the Single Women that really set a lot of single people a lot of girls thinking. That's that girl with Lola Thomas. That's me. And that's not me, but kind of. That's when I was fired.
That's it. Good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Barbara.